Okay, everyone, welcome to the Introduction to WordPress webinar. I'll give a brief definition of what WordPress is. We'll take a look at the administrative area, which is essentially the back end of WordPress. We'll look at creating users within WordPress, adding content, whether it be posts, pages, media, etc. We'll look at themes, so the themes are what provide the look and feel for the website. And then I'll also demonstrate how to expand the functionality of your website with the use of plugins. Okay, so what is WordPress? Essentially, WordPress is an open source website creation tool. Often you'll find it's referred to as a CMS or content management system. And if you're not familiar with open source, essentially all it means that it's a software that the source code is made available for anyone to use or modify. And you'll see by making this source code available, it opens up the opportunity for people to develop various themes and plugins for the WordPress platform. Next, I just want to give you an idea how prevalent WordPress is compared to other content management systems. So this is W3 Techs, and they provide information about the usage of various types of technologies on the web. And as you'll see here, as of today, essentially WordPress has about 60% of the market share with regards to CMSs, and then they're followed by Joomla, Drupal, Blogger, etc. So just to kind of give you a visual that WordPress, they're definitely on the top of their game. Okay, the next thing I wanted to take a look at is the login page. So again, we're going to look at the administration area, the back end of the site. How do you actually log in and customize and modify your WordPress site? So in order to log into your WordPress site, essentially what you're going to do is type in the domain name for the website. So I've created this mock WordPress site for illustration purposes. And so you'll type in the domain name and a / and then wp-admin. And you'll be presented with this login screen here. And then I'll go ahead and add your user credentials. So what we're seeing now is referred to as the dashboard. A few things you'll notice at the top of the screen here, you have this toolbar area, and we'll just take a look at a few of the links here. You'll have this library website link, so anytime you actually want to view your website, you can go ahead and click on that. You can see your site, and then if you want to go back, you'll just hover over library website again, and then just click on dashboard, and that'll bring you back to your dashboard. The other thing to note here, you have this new item here, and this is kind of a quick link where you can actually add your posts, again, media pages, and create users as well. And then the other thing to note, anytime you create or add a theme or add plugins, you may as well see links related specifically to those plugins or themes as well here. The other thing to note on the left side here, you have a navigation menu. And we'll just kind of run through the items that are listed here, and then we'll take a look at many of the items as we move on with the presentation. So with the main navigation menu, you are able to provide updates or perform updates, I should say. So whether it be actually for the WordPress platform itself or themes or plugins that you've installed. Here you can also add your content, so your posts, any media, so for example, images, video, pages, you can do that all here. You can also change the appearance of the site, and we'll take a look at that a little bit later, as well as add plugins, users, and also you can configure your plugins and or themes within these navigation menu items. And again, we'll take a look at all this stuff as we proceed. So the first thing I want to take a look at, I mentioned updates. Up on the top here, if you click on this updates link, you'll see here, this provides you with a screen here that notifies you of all the updates that are currently available. So for example, you'll see here, there's actually an update for the WordPress plugin itself. And one of the nice features about WordPress is that you can easily update anything. It's just a matter of a click of a button. So I could just go ahead and click and update the WordPress software, as well as any plugins that I've installed. And we'll talk a little bit about what plugins are a little later. I can go ahead and update that right here, as well as any of the themes. I can go ahead and update that. The next item I want to take a look at is this settings item in the menu. And essentially there's just a few things we'll take a look here. First of all, if I click on General, so you'll see here I have the domain name for my website. Probably the most important things to note here, you can associate an email address here. So for example, if you're adding users to the site, you need some type of notification. You'll see that here, or if a user resets their password, etc. So you'll use some type of email address here. The other thing to note is with regards to the time zone, you just want to make sure that's correct. Obviously that'll influence any plugins that you've installed. For example, maybe like a calendar plugin. Obviously you want to make sure that that information is correct. The other item here is this. I want to actually look at reading here. A few things to note here. Any WordPress site you create, you have the option of either having a blog roll on the main page or a static page. And one thing I should note with regards to WordPress, when it was first developed, essentially it was a blogging platform. That was its main purpose. But now it's kind of evolved into a website development platform as well as blogging. And you'll see for this particular site, and as you probably noticed when we looked at the site itself, it actually has a static page that's set up on the home page opposed to a blog. But again, if you wanted to have blog posts on the initial launch page, you could easily do that here. Another thing to note here with regards to search engine visibility, you can, if you choose not to have the site indexed by a Google or a Bing, you could click on this checkbox and it discourages that, so it's not indexed. Chances are, if it's your library's website, obviously you want to have that unchecked. You want that searchable via a search engine. The other thing I just wanted to note here is this permalink section, and this is important. Anytime you add content, of course, there's going to be some type of address, URL that's associated, whether it be a post or a page. And by default, you get this, domain name / and then, some type of weird numeric entry here. I would recommend you'd probably want to use the post name. So for example, if you create a page called About, I would guess you would want the URL for that page to be the domain name / about, opposed to some kind of weird numeric or alphanumeric text. Okay, so next I want to take a look at users. Just one thing to note with regards to users, each user can have a role, and really quickly I just want to go through the different roles that are available. And essentially a role is just, it gives the site owner the ability to control what users can and cannot do. And you'll notice there's various roles in this drop down here. And essentially there's really only 5 roles that are available through WordPress. This event contributor role is actually something that was an add-on from a plugin that I installed. And I'll just kind of read through these very quickly. Administrator, so someone who has access to administrative features on the website. So essentially they have total control. An editor, somebody who can publish and manage posts, including the posts of other users. Author is someone who can publish and manage their own posts. Contributor, someone who can write and manage their own posts but cannot publish them. And a subscriber, someone who could only manage their profile. And I've found from experience, chances are you probably will only be using either the administrator or editor. So if you're the site owner, you'll want to obviously be an administrator. And then if you're having someone add content, for example, pages, either adding or modifying content, for example, pages or posts, most likely you'll just have them be an editor. The only thing to note with regards to the editor role, I found many times as an editor, you don't have access to, you might not have access to specific plugins that have been installed. So again, just keep that in mind. If you limit someone as an editor, and if you want them to maybe add content via a specific plugin or utilize a specific plugin, that might rule them out from being able to do that. So the other thing I want to talk about is actually adding posts. And with regards to posts, as I mentioned earlier, WordPress was initially came about as a sort of a blogging platform. If you're not familiar with a blog is, essentially it's a short name for weblog, and weblogs provide ongoing chronicle of information, sort of like a diary. And then the posts are just entries that display typically in reverse order on the blog page. With this particular site that I've set up, I don't have a blog per se set up on this site. One thing that posts can be used for, so if you don't have a blog per se on your website, many times the posts will kind of integrate with plugins. And with this particular site, I've integrated this with, you'll notice on the front page there's sort of this slider that cycles through various images and has some information. I'm actually using it to feed that slider, and when we look at the theme, you'll see how I do that. So other than showing you really quickly how to add a post, you'll put some type of title here, and then typically you'll add some content down here in this body, text body area. And again, specifically for this website, I'm using the post to actually feed the marquee, the slider on the front page, and we'll take a look at that a little later. The other thing I want to take a look at really quick are actually pages. We mentioned with posts. Typically, posts are adding content over a period of time, new content. With pages, typically they're static, more static information. So, for example, it may be an about page about your library, information about staff, history of the library, that type of stuff. Although you can have dynamic content on a page as well. And essentially with pages, again, you just click on Add New here. You would add a title for the page, add some kind of content here, and again, the content could be text or maybe images, and then you would go ahead and publish the page. For an example, I'll just create a test page here. I'll go ahead and add some media. So anytime you want to add media, and this is whether it be a poster or page, you'll have the Add Media button. You can actually upload media, maybe you have locally on your computer, or if you've already uploaded the media previously, you'll have access to that here. So I'll just go ahead and click on an image, insert that into my page. You could just add some text and go ahead and just publish that. So now if I just click on all pages here, you'll see that my test page is here. If you want to actually view the page, you can click on this view button, view link, and you'll see how the page displays within the site. The other thing just to note on the dashboard here, so we added media via page. You can also add media via this item within the navigation menu as well. So if you just want to upload media to your site, again, for example, an image, you can go ahead and do that from here. And again, just click on Add New. The other nice thing about the interface here, you can actually just drag and drop the files right onto this page here. So the next thing I want to take a look at is with regards to the appearance of the site. And essentially, if I click on this appearance item in the navigation menu, you have these various items. And what I really want to concentrate on is themes, customized widgets, and menus. So with regards to themes, essentially themes provide control of the look and presentation of the material on your site. The only thing I would note, if you're adding a theme, one thing that's very important is to make sure that the theme is responsive, i.e. the website content adapts to mobile devices such as a tablet or a smartphone. And just to kind of give you an example of this, I have my smartphone, Android phone here, and I'll just show you what the library website looks like. The theme I'm using, as you'll note here, actually before I do that, I should just kind of really quickly take a look here. So these are all the themes that I currently have installed on the website. And you'll note here this Frontier theme, this is the active theme, so that's currently the theme that's being utilized by this site. What's really nice about WordPress, it's really, if you wanted to easily add a theme, it's just really a click of a button, and you can very easily activate any theme that you've uploaded and just see how it looks on the site, which is really great. So you'll see here, essentially the website, it has kind of resized itself, formatted itself specifically for my smartphone. I can click on any of the menu items here, and you'll see how things are rendered within the mobile theme. Okay, so going back to the theme menu here, if at any time you want to add a theme, you can just go ahead and click on this Add New button. So you could, if there's a specific theme you had in mind, maybe something you had Googled or were recommended, you can go ahead and just do a keyword search here. There's also this feature filter. So for example, if there's specific colors, I wouldn't worry about, essentially, because with any theme you can adjust the colors pretty much to anything you want them to be. Probably what you're really more interested in, again, you want to make sure you have a responsive layout so that the website is mobile friendly. And then there's other features that are also available here. I found personally, if you really want to kind of get an idea what themes are out there, you're probably better just doing a web search, looking to see what other reviewers recommend, opposed to, you know, using this feature filter tool here. The other thing I mentioned, once you've actually uploaded a theme, you can very easily apply the theme to your website. So say, for example, I have this 2013 theme. I can go ahead and just click on Activate. So now if I click on my library website link, you see it's applied the new theme to the site. And then I can always, if I hover back on library website, I actually can go right back to that themes menu, and I can go ahead and reactivate my Frontier theme. The other thing with regards to appearance, I just want to make you aware of, there's also this customize link here. And this essentially just has a few items I just want to take a quick look at. This site title and tagline, if you remember, this was actually available in that settings menu we took a look at earlier. So it has the website name and the tagline. And depending on how you've configured the theme, they may or may not appear on the website. Typically, also, you can adjust the background color. So if you notice here, this kind of gray pattern on the sides of the site, that's what it refers to as the background color. And depending on how you size the website, you're going to see more or less of that background color. And we'll take a look at, when I actually look at the Frontier theme options, we'll take a look at that. There's also a header image. So again, I have a header image up on here of the bookshelves on the theme. If you want to add that, you can do that here. If you want a background image, typically I don't do that myself or necessarily recommend that. But you know, if you wanted to have a background image opposed to just a solid background, you could do that. With regards to navigation, and we're going to take a look at this in a little bit, you can actually create menus. So for example, the menu I have here up on the top is my calendar photos. You create a menu, and then you essentially tell WordPress which menu you want to use on your site. And then widgets we'll take a look at a little bit later. So I just want to make you aware that that customize area was there. The next thing I just want to take a look at really quickly. So anytime you install a theme on your site, you're going to have some type of back-end, let's say for that theme, or customization area. So for this Frontier theme, you see this Frontier options link appears under the appearance menu. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And I'll just kind of give you an overview. And again, for any theme, this is going to be maybe slightly different. It's not going to be exactly the same, but just to kind of give you a feel for what you might experience for any given theme. So for example, for this theme, under this display tab, if you wanted to add a favicon, you could do that. A favicon, all it is if you notice up in the address bar here in the browser, you have the little Internet Explorer icon. You could make that something specific for your particular site, so you can upload an image for that. Also here, I could have a top bar on my on this particular theme, which could include the site title and the tagline, as we looked at earlier. You have the option to show or not show the header I had uploaded, as well as you can also resize that as well. So depending on what the height you want to adjust that to. You can upload a logo. As you noticed on this particular site, I have this little library clip art logo that's available there. The other thing to note here is you can change the layout for the site. So currently I have 3 columns, and I can adjust the sizing on that. If I just wanted to have a right or left column as well, I could adjust that here. Again, the single view really deals more with blogging. One thing to note with this particular theme, when you create pages in WordPress, what they tend to do by default is create a comments area in the bottom of the page. And typically, you probably don't want people to comment on the page. So with this particular theme, you notice I have, for page elements, I have or comments disabled so they don't appear when creating pages. If you don't have that option within the theme to make that the default, you actually would have to, when you create a page, there's actually a link to where you can actually disable comments on a particular page. Color, so I can change the color scheme here, and that's pretty granular. So whether it be, the headers or bottom bar, link color, etc., you can adjust that here under colors. I mentioned earlier about the slider, and you'll find that many themes have this option where you have some type of slider that's available on the front page. So I have activated it, obviously, and as I mentioned earlier, the content on the slider is actually generated via posts. And one thing to note here, if you wanted, maybe, for example, if you wanted specific categories of posts to show up on the slider, you could create various categories for the post, which I haven't done. And then here, I can choose how many posts appear within that slider, as well as I can change the duration of the, the time that the slider actually shows up, that time period before it cycles through to another slide, as well as if you have some type of animations, you can set how long it takes for those animations to render. And as well as with the slider, you can change the height of the slider as well within this menu item here. Okay, so really quick, again, we'll go back to the main page here. So this is the slider I'm referring to. It'll cycle through automatically, or you can actually manually click on items here. So just to really quick show you how this particular slider works. If I go ahead and I'll add a new post. So essentially, give it a name. You can add some descriptive text here as well. And then the other thing you need to do is, so obviously you could just have text within that slider, but most likely you want to have an image to kind of capture people's attention. So for this particular plugin, or theme, what you do is you actually set a featured image for that post. And again, it could be any of the images you have in your media library. You can upload an image. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on an image, set that as a featured image. Go ahead and publish that. Then I'll go back to the website. And you'll see here, so that the title text appears up on the top, the descriptive text at the bottom, and we have the image. Now, of course, you'll notice here with this particular image, it's a little kind of distorted. So the other thing to note is you're adding images to the slider. You may have to adjust the size either of the image itself or maybe of the slider height, depending on what your preference is there. So the next thing I want to talk about really quickly are widgets. And again, this is found under the appearance menu. And widgets, basically, they allow you to add content to sidebars on your site. So it could be text, it could be images, links. It may be something related to a plugin. And we'll take a look at this really quickly. So, and again, going back to the main site here, the sidebars are, so for example, I have hours here. I have a little catalog search widget, and also on the left side here, this upcoming events is actually a widget that's made available via a plugin I've installed. So going back, if I go to appearance and click on widgets, you'll see here there's various widgets that are available. So for example, featured photos, that's from a plugin that I've installed. There's an upcoming events widget. If I scroll to the bottom here, and again, that's from the calendar plugin, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes. But in order to create a widget, I just essentially have to decide what widget I want to use. So either I could easily choose maybe something that's related to a plugin, but for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some text. So you'll have this text widget that's available, and when I click on the widget, you just have to choose where you want it to appear. So whether it's the left or right sidebar. It can also appear in the footer. For example, you notice I have some items in the footer on the page as well. So for this particular one, I'll just put it on the right sidebar. You just click on Add Widget, add some text. And then I'll go ahead and save that. Hopefully. There we go. And if I click back on library website, you notice it's add this text widget here at the bottom. As well, as you're moving back and forth from the site back to the dashboard, you can also, there's also actually a link right here, shortcut link to widgets. I could just go ahead and click on that. The other thing to note with widgets, you can easily kind of reshuffle them. So you just left click on an item. So for example, this links widget that I created, I could just move it up to the second position here. Or if I want to maybe, for example, move the online catalog search, I can move that over to the right side. Very simple. And the other thing to note with widgets as well, you notice I didn't click on any save button, so it auto saves everything. So once you make the changes, once you shuffle things around, it will auto save for widgets. Menus essentially, they allow you to create and customize navigation menus on your site. So you notice by default, again, going back to the website, I've created this menu here. So it has a home button, it has a link to a calendar, a button for a calendar, a photo gallery, and another page which we'll take a look at, a plugin I've added to add content from RSS feeds. In order to create a widget, or excuse me, a menu item, you can just go ahead and click on Create a New Menu. We'll take a look at the menu actually I'm using on the page itself. So I'll go ahead and select that. So again, these are just the buttons that are available on my website's main navigation menu. For any of these, I could change the label for these. To actually add items, you'll notice here under pages, so any page that I have on the current site, I could go ahead and just click on one of these items and then just add it to the, click on add to menu, and then it'll add it here to the menu. If I wanted to add an external link, I could do that. So say, for example, I wanted a link to the online catalog. I just put the URL, put some text, go ahead and add that to the menu. I can shuffle these around. So either, one thing to note, either I can shuffle the order or I can nest these as well. So for example, say if I wanted newly added items under online catalog, all you do is you left click and just kind of move it over to kind of indent it. And you'll, one thing to note as well with the menu structure here, this doesn't auto-save, so just make sure you click on the Save Menu Item button here. I'll go back, and now you see under Online Menu, newly added items appears as a child menu under that item. So the last topic I want to take a look at are plugins. So plugins, essentially, they extend the functionality of your website. Types of commonly used plugins include, for example, an events calendar, maybe a registration form, a photo gallery. And typically, once you install the plugin, there's some type of customization that's required to kind of get the plugin up to snuff, as well as there may be a short code that you actually would add to a specific page to render the content to that plugin onto a specific page. So within the navigation menu, we'll go ahead and click on plugins here. So this gives me a listing of all the plugins I currently have available on this website. Similar to themes, if you want to add a plugin, you just click on this Add New button here. You can, there are some sort of filters here where you can look at some of the more popular plugins that are out there, as well as you can do a keyword search here as well, or you know, they have this listing of featured plugins that they have available here as well. Again, with regards to plugins, I found that it's just helpful to just kind of look out there, look at reviews, what people are using, and just, you know, get some kind of feedback on the plugins. But again, with anything in WordPress, you can very easily just install the plugin, and then if you find that it doesn't meet your needs, you can just deactivate or uninstall it. Not a problem. So just as an example, we'll take a look at one of the plugins that I currently have installed. We'll take a look at this all-in-one events calendar. And one thing to note when you add plugins, we kind of alluded to this earlier, many times it will add a link to your, either to the toolbar or to the navigation menu. So for example, this all-in-one events calendar added this events item here within the navigation menu. And from here, you can actually add events to the calendar as well as configure the calendar. So under settings here, if I go ahead and click on that, you'll see here this is essentially the back end for this timely calendar plugin. So from here, I can choose what page I want the calendar to appear on, you know, configure what week, what day the week starts on. I can also choose what views appear. There's on this particular calendar, there's an agenda day, month, and week view, and it'll even delineate between if it's the view of the website that you would find on a laptop or desktop computer, or maybe on a mobile device with a smaller screen. So you can, so for example, maybe on the desktop, you know, you want to have the month view opposed to on a mobile device, maybe an agenda view. We'll take a look at the plugin really quickly. Time zone, typically it pulls that right from the settings of your website. And then these are just some other features. With this particular plugin, the format to add items in the calendar, I think by default it does a day, month, year, so I just changed it month, day, year. So any of those types of settings you would take care of here. And just to kind of give you a visual for this particular plugin, click on my calendar page. So these are items I've added to the calendar. If I hover over them, I'll get some text here and some details. And as I mentioned earlier, you can also change the view. So maybe if I want to look at the agenda view, just kind of a upcoming events type of view here, I can do that here. The other thing to note here, as I mentioned, it adds it did add items within the toolbar here, so I can just click on event, and then I can really quickly just add an event right from here. I would just add my title, choose a date and time, can throw any details down here, and just go ahead and publish this, and then it'll automatically show up on the within the calendar page. Okay, the last thing I want to take a look at with regards to plugins, I mentioned earlier there's short codes that are associated with plugins. So going back, let me see here. Let me go back to the plugins page. And I mentioned earlier I have this RSS and page plugin. And essentially what this does is you can take an RSS feed. If you're not familiar with an RSS feed, essentially it's just an address. There's an address associated with the feed. You could plug in that address and it'll pull content from wherever that feed was created. So for example, if it was from a blog or another website, and just to kind of illustrate this, I set up a page on the site here. I'll go back, actually I go back to pages here, and it's under these newly added items. So if I click on edit, so you'll notice there's this short code that's been added to the page, and essentially what I've done here, I've created or I've essentially captured the feed from a StarCat search that I performed earlier. And by doing that, any content from that specific RSS feed is getting pulled into this page. So for example, for this particular one, I think just did a new book search for a specific library, and then I'm pulling that content onto the page. But I just kind of want to give you an illustration here. This is what the short code might look at. Again, you just put it into a specific page. Whatever the parameters may be are going to vary depending on what type of plugin you have. But if we just go ahead and view this page, you'll see here it's pulling this content right from the StarCat catalog. So any of these items, if I were to click on one of these items, it takes me right back to StarCat. Okay, so we're right at 11 o'clock. Does anyone have any questions at all about anything we've covered? So yeah, I know we've covered a lot of ground. Hopefully I haven't lost anyone. So anything with regards to, again, just the dashboard, or with users, adding content, themes, or plugins. Anyone have any questions at all? Okay. All right. So if there's no questions, I'll leave it at that. I thank you all for your attention, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.